You have caught me reading something fun today. This fabulous book is called This Moose Belongs to Me. You see the moose? Notice the mountains in the background? Moose are often found in parts of North America, including Canada, and states like North Dakota. So I am reading This Moose Belongs to Me by Oliver Jeffers because we actually can find moose in a state like North Dakota, even though I'm not in North Dakota right now. But if I open up and I think about these incredible pictures, it almost feels like I might be there. This book is printed by Philomel Books, which is an imprint or part of Penguin Books, for Mac and Adriana. Wilfred owned a moose. This is Wilfred and his moose. How many of you own a moose? He hadn't always owned a moose. The moose came to him a while ago, and he just knew that it was meant to be his. He thought he would call the moose Marcel. Gave him a name tag and everything, Marcel the moose. He began following Marcel, explaining the rules of how to be a good pet, because of course there are rules to being a good pet. Much of the time it seemed as though the moose wasn't listening, but Wilfred knew he was, mostly because he followed rule number 4 very well, not making too much noise while Wilfred played his record collection. He was a very well-behaved moose. Sometimes the moose wasn't a very good pet. He generally ignored rule number 7, which was going whichever way Wilfred wanted to go. The moose had a very good sense of direction. Wilfred did not. And because the moose was particularly poor on rule number 7, subsection B, maintaining a certain proximity to home, Wilfred quickly learned to bring some string along on their outings so he could find his way back again. There's his ball of string. Sometimes the moose was an excellent pet. He had no trouble with rule number 11, providing shelter from the rain. Or rule 16, knocking down things that are out of Wilfred's reach, such as getting apples. Good work, Wilfred. Marcel. Good work, Marcel. One day, as Wilfred discussed their plans for the coming year on a particularly long walk, he made a terrible discovery. Someone else thought she owned the moose. Rodrigo, you've come back. Wilfred was dumbstruck. This moose was Marcel, not Rodrigo. The old lady was mistaken, and Wilfred thought it only proper that he correct her. This moose belongs to me, he explained. And to prove it, he called Marcel by name. Heel. Come, Marcel. But the moose did not respond. He seemed much more interested in the old lady. Good, Rodrigo, she said as she gave him an apple. Fine. Embarrassed and enraged, Wilfred rushed off for home. He was so angry. But in his haste and miles away from anywhere, he tripped over his string and got tangled up. All tangled up by his very own string. And there he lay. Wilfred was beginning to get a little bit worried. It was getting late, and monsters would be out soon. Are there really monsters that come out at night? He had just ruled out the last of his options. All of these scenarios he's imagining. when along came the moose and performed rule number 73 brilliantly, rescuing your owner from perilous situations. Aha. Perilous means dangerous or unsafe. Rescuing his owner from perilous situations. All was forgiven, and perhaps Wilfred admitted he'd never really owned the moose anyway. With that in mind, he and the moose reached a compromise. The moose would agree to all of Wilfred's rules, and there were many of his rules, whenever it suited him. Dominic, you're back, and you have brought me an apple. Perhaps Marcel, Rodrigo, Dominic has many people who claim him as their moose. There's the blue string. Thank you for reading this book with me today about the moose. As we think about all the states and how incredibly beautiful they are in their own ways, enjoy Read Across America Week.